This is a table from page 334, number 1. Interestingly enough, they claim that this is the same table that we created in section 4.1, but it's not. The numbers don't quite match up. But we're going to go with what they've printed on page 334 to avoid confusion. This is a grouped frequency distribution. Let's make a histogram of it. So if I'm going to graph this in a histogram, which is like a bar graph, I need to figure out my scale. Now, my frequencies are going to be how tall my bars are. My tallest one is 13. And in your book, on page 334, number 1, they've got it set up for you. We can count how many lines you've got, and I think it's what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. You've got 8 to work with. We need to get up to 13. Let's count by threes. So 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18. Oh wait, we've got to get to 18. Well, great. I'm glad we count by threes. And then we want to put our classes down at the bottom. So my first one starts at 100 and goes to up to where the next one starts, which is 105. The next one starts at 110, 115. Now I think in your book you've got a little more horizontal space to work with. You could make your bars be wider if you want. We're going to have our bars be the height of these frequencies. So between 100 and 104, so up to 105, we've got 2. So it's a little bit low, 2/3 of the way up to 3. The next one goes up to 8. Now you'll notice that my bars are smack up against each other with a histogram. There's no space in between. If one of my classes had a 0, then there would be like a bar that was 0 high. But we don't have space in between the categories, like maybe a different type of bar graph might. But this is one of the things that's special about a histogram. Oh, wait, that's the wrong height. Good thing I used a pencil. Hopefully you are following along on number 1 here. And you also used a pencil. Or you got it right to begin with. Then 7. Some things to keep in mind. Your scale should always start at 0. The graph can be misleading if we start halfway up. We want to include the heights of all of our bars. We wouldn't want to, we want to be at least as high as our tallest bar. We don't want any spaces in between, but it would be good to have a space on the outside. This one goes up to there. Okay, so that is our histogram. Now, we want to be able to do a frequency polygon, which is number 8. Let me move my super high-tech camera holder here. Okay. Oh, that's not good balance. Okay. A frequency polygon is really similar to histogram, except we're going to use dots and connect the dots instead of having bars. So instead of having the borders of my bars as the numbers I put on my axis here, I'm going to use the midpoints of each category. So let's look at this one for a sec here. So I'm going to choose 102, 107, so, look here. What is the middle value for each of these? This is where I'm getting these numbers. 102, 107, 112. And notice here, from 2 to 7, it's 5 away, 5 away, 5 away. Our classes are all, like our starting points are all 5 away, so the midpoints ought to be 5 away as well. So here I'm going to have 102, but I want my, here I've got some steps. I'm going to connect my dots, but I want to be able to connect with a dot on the outside that's down at 0. So my first dot for that first bar, which was up at a height of 2, I want to be able to connect it with the ground. So since everything is 5 away, this is going to be 97. I'm noticing, I have no idea why I wrote 118 there. It should be 122. Okay, so like if I were to put a dot in the middle of these bars, that's where these dots are going. So this dot was at, let's see, 8. And then this one is up at 18. And we're back at 13 and 7 and 1 and 1 1, and then I want to connect at the very end to the axis at 0. So even though my last category ends here, I want to have one more dot at the end and one more at the beginning to be able to connect it to the ground. Okay, let's see if I can get this phone to balance here. Once again, I think the space provided for you in your text is a little wider than my graph paper. Boy, that almost looks linear. Now, one of the nice things about a frequency polygon is discussed on page 337, namely that you can put 2 on the same graph, and it's very clear to see. If you tried to put 2 histograms on the same graph, it'd be a lot messier. Got these bars that would overlap each other and stuff.